All starts with a thought. What do you think about when you get out of bed? What do you want to become? What do you want to achieve? If they don't scare you, you're not thinking big enough.
Well, Mr. Clifford Starks, welcome. And I'm excited, man. It's been a while. It's been probably a couple of years, I would think.
Yeah.
It is an honor and a privilege to connect with you again. And I'm excited about this. I've been wanting to talk about this, these topics with you. And in a moment, I'm just going to let you kind of run with it and just share all about what you've got going on. But I have to say, I have a little bit of a background in jiu-jitsu. I don't have a background of getting people punching me in the face like you did uh, with 4-ounce gloves. That's wild. For those that don't know Clifford Starks, UFC champion at some point.
I wish I was. No, I did fight in the UFC, but I feel like I'm a champion inside. I don't know if that counts.
I love it. Listen. What you did, what I saw you do is just wow. That stuff is crazy, man. 4-ounce gloves, punching, kicking, everything. And I know that ties into life as well. There's a lot of punching and kicking in life.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, I appreciate you joining me here for today's talk. And I really believe, my audience are business coaches, consultants, course creators, experts, and they're trying to, many of them are 6 to 8 figure entrepreneurs, but there's other ones that are trying to make their way to that level. And, I wanted to kind of kick off our talk today a little bit about, I know mindset is like huge in what we all do if you're in business. And a lot of times when people talk about mindset, we kind of think, oh, okay, here comes the rah-rah, or here comes the weird like kumbaya kind of stuff. Talk about that. Talk about just how important that is, because let's face it, if you can't get that right, nothing else matters.
Yeah. And Russell, I appreciate you having me on. And I will say it's 100% mindset. Now, with that being said, I'm not here to rah-rah anybody. I want them to see there's 4 pieces to mindset. And so there's the spiritual piece, there's the emotional piece, there's the mental piece, and there's the physical piece. And so to say, I think what happens, at least from what I've seen in the world, is they talk about the spiritual piece, the piece that is not seen. And the piece that is not seen also manifests into the piece that is seen. And so when we can get those right together, then that's where it's like, oh, now it makes sense. It only makes sense to a person when it manifests itself in the physical world, though. And that's where I started seeing like, oh, okay, this is why people are like, oh, it's this rah-rah thing. And they don't believe it until they actually see it. And that's just the way the game's played. So some people are just going to be like, I don't believe it. And that's fine. That's great. It helps you navigate effectively and accordingly. And so mindset is, okay, what is it that you want? Like, what bridge are you getting ready to cross? And do you have the foundations in place so that you can cross it? Because once you cross it, it's real.
Interesting. And you have what I have seen as the fighter's formula. Is that right?
Yeah.
Talk to us about what the fighter's formula is. Like, how does your background, extensive background, I mean, I've seen some of the walls filled with trophies that you've got. Was that all martial arts, by the way, or was that other sports?
It was a combination of, I have done a lot of cool things in my journey. And I say that with humility and grace, because I know how to win, but I also know how to lose. You don't learn how to win until you learn how to lose. Like, that's the truth. Yeah. And so I became a Hall of Famer in mixed martial arts. I was a Hall of Famer at my high school as well. And I have won several different championships along the way. So in MMA, in football, in track and field, in wrestling, in all of these things. And I also did it academically too, which I was really excited about. To say like, oh, I'm not just some dumb jock. I've done it both mentally and physically.
Interesting. I didn't know that. That is
Yeah.
cool, and that's good that you point that out, because I think those that are maybe more studious. I was not very studious, but those that are more studious might go, okay, they kind of check out. It's like, no, this guy is kind of the full package. Speaking of which, before we get into deep into the fighters formula, or maybe it's a combination of it, I
Hmm.
want to kind of hear kind of what led up to the fighters formula, how you decided or why it made sense to kind of meld the two, both business, of course, I would even say three, the life, and then the background that you have with achieving success.
Yeah. So I actually got into it. Um, I ended up speaking at a conference, and I did a terrible job. It was like absolutely destroyed it. And I spoke with my speaking coach, and she said, "Oh, you have to give a framework." And so I had to go. I started at the end in mind, and then I worked backwards. Like, okay, this is the transformation a person goes through, and then I worked it backwards, and I saw that there were certain key components that led to a transformation. And so I didn't even call it the fighter's formula right away. It was actually called the power of six, because it was six different things that had to occur to get to that transformation. And as I navigated and I got better at understanding business and what worked and how it really had to crystallize into a person's mind, that's when I called it the fighter's formula, because it was a formula that I learned to fight, and I also learned to flow. There's a time to fight and there's a time to flow. And truly, truly being a good fighter is someone who can do both, is the
Interesting.
ability to flow and the ability to fight.
What is some examples of someone who is in a state of flow and someone who's needs to go into fight mode?
Yeah. So a state of flow is the world works for you. It's always working for you. And it always is. But if you're in a state where the pressure is super, super heavy, and you're emotionally devastated, you're physically devastated, you're mentally devastated, you're spiritually devastated, you're not going to most, let me take that back. You're most likely not going to make the best actions in that moment. You're off. And sometimes just making an action is better than a no action. Because when a person's in a state of like fear, 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 and things are really, really tight, they think, oh, well, I just won't make an action. And that's the worst thing to do. Like, it's the worst thing to do. That's like the lion's coming at you, and you're like, oh crap, I'm just gonna stand here. Like, no, don't do that.
It is so true. And, go back to kind of how we started off, where many people's mindset about mindset
Mhm.
is, we talked about rah and so forth. But I remember years ago a mentor sharing with me that everything that determines your lifestyle starts with your worldview or your philosophy. And that philosophy determines your thoughts. And your thoughts determine your action or inaction, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
And your actions determine your results, and your results determine your lifestyle. So if you don't like your lifestyle, it all goes back up to the philosophy and that thought pattern that you have of action
Mhm.
or inaction. What are your thoughts?
100%. So there's it's called the law of manifestation, and it goes thought, feeling, action, result. And so you have a thought, and then a feeling, and then an action and a result. And what, generally speaking, people say the circumstance determines the thought, but it doesn't. The thought is a thought. You can have whatever thought that you want. It's a choice. And sometimes the choice might feel easier than other choices, but it's still a choice. And when you can actively utilize your thoughts, then you can effectively utilize your feelings, and then effectively utilize your actions, and then effectively have better results in the process of doing so.
Love it. Love it. You know, I think we both share a commonality in the folks that we work with. honestly, one of the biggest challenges that I think folks that we have both worked with in our respective, I'm in a different area than you, but there's some similarities in the sense that the challenge that people I speak with is their confidence, which is going back to that belief system,
Yeah.
that 15 to 30-second conversation that they're having in their mind before they take an action, or before, like you said, they're inactive, they don't take an action. And so it all boils down to that. Would you say, well, let me ask, would you say that that's kind of been in your experience, or something else where it kind of boils down to that confidence or lack of
Yeah.
confidence in
Yeah.
business?
It's always a confidence thing. And what's interesting, what I've noticed, generally speaking, men and women have different confidence issues. And so you can take someone it's so crazy because our mind's constantly effing with us. Like we can be, let's say we're not confident to pick something up, and then we get confident to pick it up. Well, now are we confident to let it go? We get so nervous about like, oh, can I pick this up? I can pick it up. And then we get excited about the fact that we can pick it up. Well, can we let it go now? And now it's like a new level of, oh crap, well, now that I picked it up, I want to hold on to it because it took so long to get to that pickup stage that letting it go, it doesn't feel right. And I go, oh wow, we're constantly working with confidence. Even leaders are constantly working with confidence to be like, I got this because I can do this. I showed the world that I can do it. Now, can you show others that you can teach others how to do the same thing that you just did? We're constantly learning and growing.
Sure, sure. Something I've noticed about you, and we've gotten to work together. We've gotten to interact a little bit. It hasn't been a ton, but we've kind of been doing different things. But one thing I have observed from you from day one is your humility,
Mm.
and I respect that a lot. How much do you think that plays in business? Obviously in life too, but in business where folks need the help but maybe don't seek it because maybe pride's in the way. There's a fear of failure. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. First, thank you so much for that. That means a lot to me. I say there's two things that I've had in my journey, which is courage and empathy. And so I have the courage to go after what I want to go after, and I also have the empathy to support others in going after what they want to go after too. And I get better and better because I not only go after the thing, but I teach others how to go after it. So they make me better at going after the thing. It's very cool. I want to matter in this world. And what I've learned is to matter, you make other people matter. I kind of did it by accident because I believe everyone matters. Um, and they would make me matter more. It was very interesting. It was a very interesting insight that I got from it. And so I go, oh, wow. In order to do right by yourself, you do right by others. And you just do that in the best way that you can. Now, have I done right by others who didn't do me right? I have. And I'm okay with that because I get to reflect and say, okay, well, what result do I want? And who do I need around me to get the result ultimately? And so I hang around with high level people, but I'll also go around those who are striving to be a high level person. I do my best to do that. Some people they're going to be heavyweights and they can't help themselves. That's what they know. That's the way they've been programmed. And I love them. I love them from a distance though, because they will weigh you down. But I've been humble to say I'm just doing my best, and I know everybody else is doing their best too.
It's so funny being with your background, a
Hmm.
not only a high level martial arts background, but in school and in other sports. Um, you could be prideful. You
Hmm.
could choose that route of being prideful and brag all the time, but it's just not what I've seen. In fact, I've watched your journey from behind the scenes. I've been the
Yeah.
lurker of seeing you posting, starting with very little interaction, and then you posting something, and all of a sudden getting a ton of reaction. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's the stick-to-itiveness. Boy, that's easy for me to say. That someone of your caliber has, that I think others that kind of try something, they stick a toe in the water. It's a little cold, a little uncomfortable. So they're like, I'll wait till it warms up. And I've just seen you kind of inch by inch, step by step, growing your following on social media, doing talks. And it's awesome. Honestly, I think
Thank
that's
you.
so great. Speak to the person that is a business coach, is a consultant, is a course creator, or some kind of an expert that wants to monetize their expertise. This online world, they might be used to some of the networking events, BNI type thing, where you sit down, which is cool, but maybe wants to try to dip their toe in water that might be a little bit cold at first, and then just sticking to it. Because I've got to believe that's similar to what you've experienced, where doing jujitsu, doing MMA, etc. It's cold at first. You're getting beat up, a lot at first, and then you
Yeah,
get better and just
exactly.
kind of gritting through it. What is the mindset for that?
Yeah. So I want to share with everybody. I was an overweight kid at one time. It wasn't
Really?
fun. Yeah, it wasn't fun. I got to see myself, and people can be really, really mean. I had kids telling me I need to wear a bra and just really, really cruel, mean stuff. And to become what I became started with one push-up, just one.
Hmm.
And it was painful to do those push-ups the first time. It was. And then the pain started decreasing. And then my muscles started getting stronger. And I grew in a whole bunch of other areas. Like I started reading what I was putting into my body. I started looking at things differently. I started getting better and better at it. And eventually it got to the point where I had some of my haters started becoming my lovers. I had people who loved me started hating me. I had a mixed mosh of everything else in between.
Really?
But I was happy with me. I was happy with who I became, what I became, how I showed up, and the lessons that I learned along the way. And I was happy with that person that I laid next to, because it was someone that I worked to become that. I worked to become that. And I look at life and I go, we're all doing that, all choosing what we want to become and what we don't want to become. And so my reminder is, are you being the person you want to be? And if you're not, well, what new actions do you have to take? And know that there's going to be people who are going to be on your side. And also know that there's going to be people who are not going to be on your side, no matter what you do or how you show up. And that's good, because they're showing you who you should be surrounding yourself around. And so when I talk about consistency is be the person you want to be. Be the person you want to be, whether it's sometimes there's going to be pain and sometimes there's not. Sometimes it's going to be easy and sometimes it's not. But the worst thing is not being the person you want to be. So we're always taking an action. And then you say, okay, am I being the person I want to be? Or am I being the person I don't want to be? It's really that simple.
I love the saying in the movie Braveheart where he says, every man dies, but not every man truly lives.
Mm-hmm.
It was something to that effect. And it's so true. What you're saying, I mean, I'm totally agreeing, because I'm just like,
Yeah.
100%. There's nothing worse than going through life, not reaching your potential, and feeling like there's something missing and you're just not going for it, and you're just not sure what to do. What is it like if someone works with you, maybe more on an intimate level, or is it more of a group? How does it work when people want to reach out and get your help? Is it more of a broader audience, one-on-one? How,
Yeah.
how does that?
So when you work with me, you're part of a team. And what I mean by that, when I was a fighter, I had a coach who worked directly with me, who really, really got certain things tight and right, so that when it was time to perform at that high level, I was ready. I also had a team that I worked with. I had a culture that I was around. And what I've really, really learned as I go through my journey is the only way people don't get to where they want is they have the wrong leader, whether that's them or whether that's the people that they're around. And so what I do is I ask questions to really understand them at the deepest level possible. And I will do everything in my power to make sure, and I say my power because I can't control what they do or how they show up. I can just ask the right questions or help them see the right priorities to look at. Everything in my power to make sure that they win. And with that being said, I also make sure I only work with people who I can actually serve, because there's some people, they just don't want any of it. And I'm one to ask questions in a way to see if they're bullshitting themselves or not, because there's some people who they've gotten so good at BSing themselves that they're beyond the help that I can give them. So I really make sure like there's a win-win going on both sides, because I want to win and I want them to win too.
It goes back to you not wanting, you want to. I remember hearing about people that were being rescued, and I don't know if this is true. You can, maybe you've heard it, but the rescuers would throw life vests, and if the person would not try to save themselves, they had to kind of move on, something to that effect.
Yeah.
Or you just, I guess you want to work with the willing, don't you? You want to work with those that really want to help and not just want you to buy into the things that they've sold themselves.
Yeah. I got a really strong will. Like, you don't get to the places that I've gotten without it. But others who have a really strong will to lose also have that too. And I have positioned myself to make losers winners. But if you don't feel like a winner inside, it does not matter. And I had to learn that lesson. I was a person who was like, I can will anything to happen, but at what consequence?
Yeah. What cost? Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me an idea of people that either you've worked with or results that you have gotten when people kind of worked with the fighters formula. Like, put us in that position where we can kind of go, okay, if I work with Clifford, this is what, obviously results will always vary because it depends on the individual, but give us something that we can kind of bite on.
Yeah, absolutely. So better relationships, better health, better finances. And I say this because ultimately those are the three things we want. Entertainment is almost like, at least what I've seen in America, entertainment, it has to be entertaining, because if it's not, people just won't do it.
Sure.
And as I go through that, I go, okay, life's about having fun, but it's also about getting those three things right. And what was interesting, they go, well, how can you be good at all three? Well, this is how. You have to play the game in the way that it works for you, not in the way that it works for everybody else. People play the game very, very incorrectly, myself included, because we look at the outside circumstances instead of looking at the inside circumstances. It's how you think about what you are doing and how you're approaching it. And I go, oh, life's a game of being able to communicate effectively. When you can communicate with yourself, when you can communicate with others, and when you can communicate with your environment, all of a sudden life just starts working for you. And so what I do is I ask questions to figure out where they're at and why they're where they're at. And then I have them look at life in a completely different way. And when they look at it in that different way, now they have different thoughts with different feelings and different actions and different results.
Love it. Love it. I love it. And thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here and to serve. That's just been what I've watched you do. How how do people get in touch with you from here? Is there a website? Is there a Facebook group? How do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so the best way to get in touch with me is Clifford Starks on Facebook or on LinkedIn. I am easygoing. Reach out to me. And I'll tell you, I've had like a total of 3 people reach out to me directly right off the gate, and they're happy that they did. And I'm happy that they did too, because it takes a lot of courage to do something like that. But what was interesting, some people start stalking me and they'll wait for like 6 months, and that's cool too. So you can find me. I have a fearless fighting community.
Like I was lurking to watch your growth on social
Yeah.
media.
Yeah,
Are you calling me out, man? Is that what's going on here?
No, I'm not calling you out. I had one woman. She wasn't going to take the call at first. She ended up taking the call, and she goes, "Just listening to your podcast was transformative to me," and that means a lot to me. Like I'm deeply humbled by that. And what I started seeing was our minds can get whatever they get. Whether there's fear of like, oh, what's he going to try and do? Sell me? I can't sell you. I can only sell you on yourself at the end of the day. That's the name of the game. But I'm not your twist your arm kind of individual who's going to be like, oh, you got to do this because if you don't, like, and I get why the world's a little bit nervous with that kind of stuff, because there's a lot of BS going on where they're like, oh, yeah, I'm going to put you on a discovery call. But the discovery call is really, I'm going to get all your information, and then I'm going to call you out on all your shit, and then I'm going to give you a really high price for something. And if you don't take it, I'm going to be like, oh, you just might not want it bad enough. And that goes back into that mindset bull crap that people try to push on people. I get a little bit passionate about that, so I'm going in a little bit of a tangent, but it drives me nuts. Like it drives me nuts when people say, oh, well, your mindset must not be in it. No, you're not supporting them in the way that they need support. That's how I feel about that. Because a person should walk away feeling better and feeling like they actually can do something with their life instead of feeling like shit. So
I can totally vouch for that, because that was my experience working with you too. I'd never got that impression that you were a hard close, hard sale, hard pushy.
yeah,
We worked together on something different, but just my interaction with you gave me that vibe. And honestly, that's why I wanted to do this talk today, because
yeah,
I was
I
like,
appreciate that.
I know it'll be cool. I know he'll give real value, and there's not going to be a hidden agenda other than to serve people and to help them grow and to help them get them unstuck. And so you were sharing a second place, I think, that I rudely interrupted,
Oh, no,
and I don't know
you didn't
if
do
you heard
anything
that.
rude. I give myself super passionate sometimes.
Say that other place. I think that you have a podcast and in a couple of other places that you mentioned. Say it one more
Yeah,
time, and
yeah.
I'll be
So
sure to put
you
links
can
below.
find me. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook. I'm pretty easy to find. And even if you send me an Instagram, that's going to take a little bit of time to get back to anybody. I just want you all to know that. Like, I don't check my Instagram that much. I've never, ever tried to be rude. I do the very best that I can, but Facebook and LinkedIn, you'll get an easy connect from me there. And I published my book, which I'm super excited about. Yes. So Russell, I will send that over to you. And if you want to put that in the show notes too, like,
Okay. Yes.
I'm super pumped about this book. Like this book.
Congratulations.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. I had one of my clients read it, and she's like, "Yeah, this is you through and through. This is a 10 out of 10 book." And I was
What is
like,
it called?
"It's called The Fighter's Formula: Winning the Game of Life."
Fighters for me winning the game of life. Okay.
Yeah,
Excellent.
because
Excellent.
ultimately, we want to win our game of life, and I want to support people in winning their game of life. And once you beat this thing, and you don't actually even have to beat it, you just have to get it working with you. That's what you do. When you get this thing working with you, the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Easier said than done at first.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Well, listen, Clifford, thank you so much for your time today, for sharing the value with everybody. I really, really appreciate it. I will put in the show notes, I will put the links to everything so everybody can get a hold of you and get connected with you. Thank you so much, sir, for all that you're doing. And it's
Yeah, I
been
appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Russell,
awesome.
audience, love you guys, and let's keep moving forward. And I want to remind every single person that there's always greatness in you. It's just up to us to take the step and become the person that we want to become.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
All right, sir. You have yourself a great one. Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.